This is ogforums.com Real Talk, an unfiltered, independent perspective on Acumatica Cloud ERP. My name is Tim Rodman, and I want to mention three things in this pre-recorded intro before we get started. First, thank you to our sponsors. Our first sponsor is Paya. Paya offers Acumatica users a suite of industry-leading payment orchestration tools. Far beyond native Acumatica payments, Paya enables EMV NFC terminals for countersale. They offer a frictionless customer portal through their click-to-pay solution, and they support most e-commerce platforms and point-of-sale solutions used with Acumatica, such as One Retail and AcuPOS. And best of all, omni-channel reconciliation is available for all their solutions. Our second sponsor is DataSelf. DataSelf Analytics is a revolutionary reporting solution that enables organizations to make the most informed decisions faster and easier than ever. It uniquely simplifies business intelligence, empowers anyone to build and access dashboards, and delivers critical business insight when and where you need it. Our third sponsor is Aldrich Web Solutions. Are you a distributor using Acumatica, yet struggling with an e-commerce fit? US-based Aldrich Web Solutions out of Marion, Illinois, has 2 decades of experience helping distributors find success online. Our team of experts built the integration, creating websites that work effortlessly with Acumatica. With our reputation for swift customer service and meticulous attention to detail, we are the perfect fit for distributors needing online solutions. Please take a minute to support this podcast by clicking each one of the sponsor banners located at augforums.com/sponsors. Our sponsors track clicks, and every click helps to support this podcast. The second thing I'd like to mention is that I'm always looking for victims. I mean guests. If you use Acumatica in any capacity, no matter how small, I'd love to talk with you. Check out augforums.com/podcast and click the link near the top of the page to learn more about being a guest on the podcast. Third and finally, I'd love to see you listed on my Rolodex. Check out augforums.com/Rolodex to find out who else is using Acumatica and read the instructions at the top to see how you can add yourself to the list. All right, that's it for the pre-recorded intro. Let's get started. Today is Friday, August 25th, 2023, and this is episode number 111. You can find related links on the episode page at augforums.com/episode 111. Today we're talking with Kandy Beatty about participation in Acumatica community forums. Kandy, thanks for coming on today.
Sure thing. Hi.
And I was trying to remember what year it was that I first met you. I remember it was in Washington, D.C.
I just told somebody this story, in fact. It was at a hotel. We did a training, in-person training, when Acumatica still did those, when you could go sign up for them and go locally on the East Coast and do them. And it was probably 2015, I want to say. And
Sounds about right.
It was a little hotel in a little conference room that the hotel had, and there were maybe 15 of us in that class, if that. I want to say 12 to 15. So it's been a long time since Acumatica has grown into what it is now from that tiny little class.
And I think about that every summit because I think on the one hand, Acumatica's grown, but they don't do those. They were doing training classes like in different parts of the country multiple times a year, and now they haven't done that in a while. And you'd think it'd be the opposite, right? You think with more people they do more of those, but I don't know. Well, it'd be interesting to see if that comes back around.
I think a lot of the VARs do more so training now when they're implementing. So I think that that's where it got, kind of to the wayside, and they have the open university now and things like that. So I think that that's where a lot of that went. They have the videos now on the open university. So I think that's what replaced it. But I liked it. I liked going and doing that. It was very rewarding, and I certainly learned a lot. So
Yeah, it's hard to focus for an entire day without being there in person, right? Doing that
yeah,
virtually would be pretty
yeah.
brutal.
I agree.
Well, cool. Yeah, and I've really enjoyed watching. Just you do a lot on LinkedIn, and
Thank
before we
you.
even get to the community forums, um, you're going to have to fill in my memory here. But I saw you got some type of degree recently. Is that right?
Yes. So I graduated last year from DeVry University with a technical management degree, and I graduated summa cum laude. So I had a 4.0, and I only brag about that because I'm pretty proud of that. So, and that'll probably get into where this community thing comes from too. The
That's really cool. As you should. Yeah, and I think as we get into it, I think it'll be interesting to hear from you. Well, maybe we'll start with that. Like, what motivated you to go get that degree? We'll start with that.
so To back it up a little further, I was in the military. I was in the Navy for years, and in the military, you get a GI Bill. Well, my plan originally with my GI Bill was to give it to my daughter because she wants to go to school. Well, you can give it to your dependents now, but it has to be while you're still active duty. You can't after the fact. Once you get out of the service, you can no longer transfer it. So I was sitting on this GI Bill money, and I was like, what am I going to do with it? And kind of one of the motivators was, well, I had about 70 credits at the time, and I might as well just go and finish it off and finish the degree. So that was kind of the motivator, just to finish it. It was something I'd always wanted to do, because growing up I always heard how important it was to have a college degree, not so much now sometimes I think, but um it kind of just motivated me to just finish it and be done with it.
That's really cool. And I think I know the answer to this, but you are probably someone then uh, who likes learning, or at least doesn't mind learning. I mean, was that also a factor? It wasn't just the money, but
It
you
wasn't,
wanted to learn
yeah.
new things.
I just wanted to learn. I'm always looking for ways to learn, ways to that's like just like when I got into the Acumatica space. I would go home at night, and I would go to Staples and have them print the training manuals and sit and highlight and read the training manuals to learn everything in those. When they were before they before like they were online so easily, but just printing them. And for me, it was more so having that hard copy to read and take with me. And um, so I remember I did every one of those, and that's always been my thing is learning. The more you learn, you can always learn something. Every day you can learn something.
I love that. A fellow nerd appreciates a fellow nerd.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was expecting an answer along those lines, but it's still neat to hear you say it that way. And um, I guess when you got involved with Acumatica initially, way back when, did you foresee yourself kind of staying along the path that you have, or has it been
I
more of a surprising journey for you?
I didn't. I think it was surprising because when the first VAR that I was at, um, it was mainly a GP VAR, and they were trying to move from GP into the cloud ERP just because that's where they saw things were going. So I didn't at the time. Nobody really knew Acumatica. I was the first version of Acumatica I was on was 5.3. That tells you how old that is. So, um, but just it, he needed the VAR needed somebody to learn Acumatica and learn everything that they could. And so that's really where it stemmed from, was just getting in there and learning everything and just becoming well versed in it. And that was one of the nice things about being at a smaller VAR, was I had the opportunity to learn so much and learn pretty much the whole system. So that's where that really came from then.
Yeah, you weren't just implementing financials or just
No.
implementing a certain area. You got to do the whole
Mhm.
thing.
Yes.
So you like that learning experience, and it seems like things just sort of went from there, right? I think I forget where you went after that. Go ahead and give us
Kensium.
your
I went to
path. Kenzium.
Kensium.
That's
Yes.
right.
I went to Kensium. Um, did worked at Kensium for a while. I took a little bit of time off of Kensium for family and things like that, and then I went back to Kensium, and then the opportunity at SWK came available, and I really like what SWK stands for as far as like their employees and the values with SWK. So I just made the move over then to SWK.
Cool. So yeah, continuing the journey basically, right? But just with another VAR.
Yeah, just different VARs, just staying in the Acumatica space, consulting, implementing, and just changing VARs then.
That's really cool. So I need to pull it up here because I didn't pull it up ahead of time. But um, I go on to the Community.Acumatica.com
Oh
website.
no.
Let's see if I can find it again. I think I have to open an individual post, right? Yeah, here we go. So we have like most helpful members this week when you open an individual post.
Yeah, you have to do it by the posts.
And then there's some way to look at like all time, and I don't even remember how I got there. Let's
Oh,
see.
I only know like by the week. I've never seen it by all time.
Oh, now see, I'm going to regret not doing this beforehand.
But you can see
Dear.
like overall all time is like the um you can see if you go to the community and you pull it up by on this side there's like the user leaderboard and then there's the all time. I think that's the only one that they can.
Yes, now I see it. User
Yeah.
leaderboard. Okay. Here, I'm going to take a screenshot of this and I'll put it in the related links on this episode page. All time leaderboard. So I remember hearing someone say at this past summit. So if we look at the leaderboard, uh, we have Naveen
Naveen's
with
number one.
63,000 points, and you are in second place with 43,000 points. Now,
Correct.
I don't remember if I've met Naveen personally, but I know I've met you personally, and so uh,
Naveen lives in India, and I know he was trying to go to last summit, but he couldn't get his visa in time. So I think a
gotcha.
lot of people have not met Naveen in person, and he's one that if he came to the summit, there would be a place for him to sign autographs and think that I'm pretty sure.
I think you're right. He's posted a lot, and
Yeah.
so it's funny what I heard someone say at the past summit. They said Acumatica must be paying Naveen to post as frequently as he does in the community. And
But
I
they
thought it was,
don't.
what's that?
They don't. They
They
don't.
don't, right?
No, he works for Kensium.
And so, it made me think, since I know you and you're second place there, I thought I'd reach out
The
and just
first
have a
loser.
conversation. No, I think, yeah, maybe second place
No.
is not. You're also very high on the all-time leaderboard. Let's say that.
Yes. Yes.
And I have a similar approach to things. Spent a lot of time on putting content out there, and I just want to kind of talk through for you what motivates you at this point in your career to be posting out on the community forums.
So I think for me, the biggest thing was when I started with Acumatica, there was nothing like the community. There was nowhere to go and find things, find answers. You had to go to Acumatica at the time directly. And I remember, being on, I would call Anita Rougier on her phone directly and be like, oh, I need this help. And, or putting a service ticket in, a support ticket. And there was nothing like the community. So when the community came up a few years ago, I started just dolloping in it and looking at it and seeing what it did. And then one of my goals last year, and this is ridiculous to me, I'm kind of an overachiever and I like to just overdo things, I guess. It's just me. It keeps my mind going though. That's one of the things that I'm driven off of, I guess. but I wanted to just start being active in the community. I wanted to help because I have so much knowledge, I have so much background with Acumatica. Why keep that to myself? It's not going to help anybody if I keep it to myself. And also I feel that the more you help, the better, the better it is in the long run, because then there all that information is there. So I think that's my driving factor, is just helping and making sure that, the information does get out there, because if not, then what benefit does it help to hold it inside your head? There's no benefit. You're not helping yourself, you're not helping anybody, because I learned from being in the military that the job that I had, I was the only person for a long time that knew how to do that job. So how was I ever going to be sick? How was I ever going to take time off? How was I ever going to do anything outside of the Navy and the carrier that I was on if I wasn't teaching people how to do my job? So that's kind of where a lot of it stems from too, is you can't hold everything yourself. There's no possible way.
So, what I did not hear you say is you did not say, I'm motivated because by participating in the community, I'm going to earn a lot more money.
Oh, I don't get paid to do the community. I
Yeah, and
mean,
it's not just that. Like, it's almost the opposite, right? Like, I've had the
yeah.
experience of, you're on a phone call with a client, you could bill another 30 minutes to show them how to do something, but instead you're like, you know what? I can just send you a link to that, and so
Mhm.
you actually earn less money in a sense because
Yeah,
you
true.
they could just find it out themselves. And so,
Exactly.
what motivates weird people like us to do that? Like, like
I
what is it underlying in the
I
childhood
don't
or whatever? I
I
mean, I don't know
don't
what it is.
know. I don't either. I think it's just putting it out there. I don't you're right. It's not Naveen doesn't get a check from Acumatica for doing it, neither do I. I mean, if Acumatica wants to start giving me a check on the side, I'll gladly take it, but I know that's not how it works. But I think it is the not holding knowledge. I don't know. I think a lot of it growing up, like I was always smart, but I didn't want to portray myself as smart, because then I was nerdy and I was quiet and reserved. And I just think now, like, why there's no point in being like that. So maybe that's where it's driven from.
Yeah, and then it just comes down to time. I mean, we have 24
Yeah.
hours in a day, right? And you could be
Yeah.
spending some of the time that you spend on the community, I would assume. Actually, there's plenty of Acumatica work out there right now, and you
Yeah.
could be spending some of that time billing. And
Of
so,
course.
why don't you? Why do you actually spend some of the time that you could be billing on the community?
Well, a lot of what I do on the community, the way that I handle the community is I'm on there early in the morning, like before my day starts, because I normally start my day with SWK around 8:30, just depending on where my calls land. So I know winter months, because I live in Pennsylvania. My husband switches a shift to like winter shift, they call it. So he goes to work at 4 a.m. So when he's up, then I'm up, because obviously the movement and everything. So I'll get on early, sometimes that early too, sadly. And I'll post and I'll comment and give likes and things like that. And then, during the day, if I have a few spare 30 minutes or whatever in between calls, or I know I have an hour where I'm not really super busy, I'll get on and I'll post. And that's really how my day goes. I try not to stay on at night anymore. I try to limit myself at night and just use it like during the daytime. Only because I don't know what it is for me, but I'll get sucked into just being on there all day long.
That's interesting you say that. I've had the same experience. Like, I used to do a lot of blogging at night, and I eventually
Mhm.
realized it's not healthy for me. Like, my brain gets going too
Mhm.
fast, and then it's hard to sleep. You don't sleep as well. So that's
Yeah.
interesting that you do it really early in the morning. That's really interesting. The
Yeah, I know sometimes I get on as early as like 6:30, 6:15, 6:30, because I'm on Eastern time, obviously. But and just I'll get on there and I'll just start reading posts and seeing where I can help and things like that. Just plus I also feel like it gets me started for the day. It gets me thinking, okay, putting my mind back into like an Acumatica space, like especially being off for a weekend. And not I try like I said, I try to separate myself from work, especially working remotely now. And taking my removing myself from a lot of it at evenings and
yeah,
weekends. And it's hard when you work remotely and your computer's at your house and you're seeing it, throughout the day and stuff.
That's fascinating. It's interesting to hear you talk about it that way because I've discovered the same need on my side, the need for that kind of a structure, even though you work remote, and the
Mhm.
flexibility is almost a curse sometimes. And to hear just from someone who's posted as much as you have, it's like it's a long game. Like you have the structure to support the endurance race of it rather than just fizzling out after a little
Mhm.
while.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, and as you were talking about 4 a.m. in my head, the what was a nerd alert, like a little beep beep, was now a screaming siren as you were saying 4 a.m.
Well, that starts here in November, so November it'll be early mornings, but like I said, when it's not winter months, I try to limit it. I mean, I'm a non-sleeper anyways as it is. Insomnia is my nemesis, so um if I didn't control myself more, I would be online at 2, 3 in the morning, probably even midnight. So I do have to simmer it down and control it. So
That's really interesting. Feel like some of the stuff we're talking about, we could be talking about in an Alcoholics Anonymous group, right? It's like it's almost like an
probably.
addiction
It is.
to the
I think it
community.
is too, because I think like you see the points and seeing it like accumulate and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I did this." And last year I wish Acumatica would show what your statistics were per year, because I think last year alone I had like over 20,000 points alone last year.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see that bump in the winter months, wouldn't it? That'd be
Yeah.
cool.
I'll ask Chris, the community manager. He might be able to pull something.
Yeah, a monthly line chart. That would be cool.
Yeah.
That would be really
See
cool.
statistics.
Yeah, so something else I want to ask you that is the case for me, but I'm curious if it's the case for you. Like, when I asked you, why do you do it that at 4 or 6 in the morning instead of billing when you could be billing and earning some money?
Mhm.
You talked about it. I actually hadn't thought about this before. It almost sounded to me like an athlete warming up.
Mhm.
Like you want to kind of warm up and get back into things. You're not ready to go game mode yet, but it's just sort of maybe building your confidence because
Yeah.
you're getting some wins out of the way, and you're then
Mhm.
feeling better for being able to tackle problems that you don't know how to solve yet. Is that, you think that's part of it?
Yeah, I think that is part of it, because like I said, sometimes after, especially a long, like we have a long weekend coming up. But sometimes after a long weekend even, you're like, "Oh, maybe I forgot everything I know." I mean, or you take a week off for vacation or PTO or whatever, and you're like, "Oh, maybe I forgot what I'm doing." And it's not always just posting that early. Sometimes it's just looking for answers too. Like if I'm looking for something, or looking for ways to help even my own clients, like, oh, they had this question, or they were looking for this, so let me see if it's on the community even. So it's not always just posting on the community. I go there to find a lot of things and ask a lot of questions. So I know that that is a good analogy though, like like an athlete warming up and getting ready and stretching and type stuff. So that probably is my I'm not an athlete really, but that's probably my comparison.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I also heard you say something like I might have forgotten everything I know, and I feel like I also have a struggle with that. Like I'm not naturally self confident. Some people just like walk in, they're like, I
Yeah,
know what to do,
that's
and I
yeah,
am not that way.
I'm not either.
I like saying I'm not an expert. I'm a professional learner. So
Yeah.
I'll come in and learn, but I don't walk in as an expert. And I feel like that's a better approach to have as a consultant
Mhm.
because anyone who thinks they know what they're doing is now limited what they can learn, right? And they don't see a
Exactly.
problem freshly. So I
Exactly.
feel like there's maybe a component of that going on too.
Yeah, I think for, for myself especially, I think for a long time I really felt like, do I even fit in this space? Like, do I fit in because I'm not a developer. I don't write code. I couldn't write code to save my life probably if I had to. I just don't do it. But do I really fit in this space? But I think with Acumatica especially, you don't have to be a developer to be good at it and constantly involving with it. I think a lot of it is just learning, and it's constant learning how to do things and keeping up on, the releases of the product and, release notes. I Every time release notes come out, I like to read them to see what the new features are. But I think that's huge too, is you don't have to be the most confident person in the room as long as you are willing to say, okay, I'm not an expert, but I do know how to do this. Or another portion of that is, having a second opinion on how to, like, one of the things I like about the community the most is people give different ideas and different ways to do things. And I think for me, that's what I like seeing, because there are different ways sometimes in Acumatica to do the same thing and get the same result, but two different people have two different ways that they do it. And I like seeing that as well, just the different steps possibly to do things, but you're getting the same result in the end.
Love it. Yeah, no, that I echo that as well. And yeah, something else you said earlier was you have all this knowledge and you want to share it. And so I'm also
Mhm.
curious your take on, if you had to guess, percentage of your time spent, so not number of posts, but your time spent on the community forums, would you say that the majority of it, more than 50%, is spent sharing something you already know? Or is the majority of it spent, oh, this looks interesting, let me go see if I can figure it out, like learning something new as opposed to
Um,
sharing something you already know?
I think it's 50-50, because I like to share what I know, but then I also like to read posts and say, I think I might know that, but let me test it in my, my local Acumatica and see if I can get it for them. And usually that's sometimes how I even give people answers, is I'll go and I'll test it myself and show them how I would do it. And I think it's about 50-50 for both. Know already what I know, and then testing a new methodology per se to show them a way they can do it.
That makes sense. That's cool. Yeah, which is kind of a learning in itself, right? You're at least
Oh yeah.
validating.
Yeah.
It's taking it from academic knowledge and making it knowledge that your fingers know how to do
Mhm.
quickly, more quickly next time, I guess.
Mhm. Yeah.
What about how, with the sheer volume going on the Community.Acumatica.com website, how do you look through that information? Do you just scroll through the most recent posts? Do you look through the email notifications? What's your
Um,
strategy there?
so I have a few different ways that I do that. There you can subscribe to, I think it's each module they have it broken down to. You can subscribe to like distribution, finance, and I subscribe to a lot of those, so I get emails, and I have a folder in my email for just Acumatica community, and everything from the community goes straight to that folder, whether it's a topic answer or a new post. So I'll see those and I'll read through them. And then I also will look where it says you can help others. There's a section, it says like recently active forums and then help others. And I usually like to look at the help others and see what hasn't been answered, because those are mainly the newer questions without best answers on them. And best answers usually happen. Either the original poster gives the best answer to someone that's given them what they're looking for, or I think the community moderators give best answer sometimes, uh, and then it'll take those questions off the help others. So I look at that, and then recently active too. So that's kind of where I stay, I guess, just to keep within reading the what's newest.
So it's not one way. It sounds like you have a few different approaches.
Yeah, I'm all over the place sometimes though with it.
And so maybe you can help me with the help others part. So help me navigate there so I can get that link and post it. I'm
Um,
not seeing it. So I'm starting on the
it's not
community.acumatica.com.
Yeah, if you scroll down to like under where, like, because they have now like they have the news announcement discussions, and then they have like the featured member now, and then under that there's like three little tabs that say recently active forums and help others.
Ah, now I see it.
And so that's where
Okay.
I normally stay within that section, um, reading
So it's
those
like
questions.
unanswered stuff. Is that
Yes.
basically it?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Questions without best answers.
Ah, I did not know about that. Jotting that down for related links.
I don't
Ah,
think it's
cool.
really linked. I think you just click on that tab. I don't It doesn't look like it's
Yeah, I think
linked.
I'll end up linking to a screenshot, with the big red arrow on it, because you're right, it
Yeah.
doesn't get a separate link. Interesting. Okay. Oh, these are good tips. Oh, actually, there, if you right click on it and do new tab, there is an unanswered link.
Oh.
So I will link to that.
Oh, okay, that is it then. Yep, it's the
A
same thing
one to
then.
bookmark.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
unanswered
Cool.
ones.
Yeah. And so, something else you said in there, just about you being all over the place. I'm curious if this is the case for you. Like, yeah, you could spend maybe even just half of that time on billable work and make
Mhm.
more money. But do you
Well,
find
I
that,
really wouldn't make more money because I'm salary, so I
okay,
wouldn't
okay,
really make per se more money. So
gotcha.
I I think most consultants that are at VARs are salaried. So I don't think I don't know how a lot of VARs do. They're paying their employees, I
Gotcha.
guess.
I know a lot of them do like a percentage of the billable. So if you
Okay.
do more billable, you'll get more. But
Okay.
um, yeah, you might get more short term. But I wonder, for me at least, I feel like there's two parts of my brain. There's the part of my brain that can do work, and there's the part of my brain that can do hobbies. And
Mhm.
I reach a capacity in the work part of my brain, but I still have some
Mhm.
capacity for hobby. So I can still be in front of my computer and do some stuff, but I'm like tapped out on work. And so the like chaotic, you're all over the place, just sort of, that sounds like the hobby part of the brain to me.
It
Would
is.
you say that's the case?
It is for sure because for me, I sometimes, with work, and this too from consulting, is sometimes you have to shut that off because you'll get burnout. And at some point all consultants will experience a burnout. If you go and you're doing 50, 60 hours a week, sometimes more, you'll experience burnout. And that was one of the things I've had to learn over the few years, was not giving myself burnout and taking time for other things. And the hobbies is kind of like the community, and being in the community and being active in there, because to me that's not work. To me, the community is like a hobby. It's something that I do on my own time, my free time, when I feel like doing it. If I wanted to stop doing it tomorrow, I could stop doing it tomorrow. So
Right.
it's not something I'm forced to do.
It's not a responsibility,
No,
right?
no, not at
Yeah.
all.
I probably brought this up on the podcast before, but I'll bring it up again because I love it. There's a part in the Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain,
Mhm.
after when he's whitewashing the fence, and at the end of that chapter, Mark Twain makes some observations on work versus hobby, basically,
Mhm.
and I'll link to that portion just because I like it so much. It's he talks about why people pay money to climb Mount Everest, because it's not work, right?
Yeah, it's
Um,
not work.
and yeah, so I think you make some interesting points about burnout there too. Like some people might look at your activity and think, how does Kandy take on another thing? But it's not really another thing on the work plate. It's
No.
actually helping you combat the burnout and the
Mhm.
fatigue by giving you something that you don't have to do. It's not a responsibility, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's how I think mentally I justify it, because it's not something that, anywhere I've ever worked, SWK or previous VARs, they've ever forced me to do. It's just like Naveen. Naveen is not forced to do it, and I've worked with Naveen. I know that he does it in his free time. What I don't know how Naveen has free time, but he does. So, um, but that is a justification of it. Is I'm not forced to do it, and there's no time limit on me doing it. Like I don't. There's nothing in my schedule that says, okay, you have to go on every day and post 6 times in the community every day, or you're going to get docked in your pay. There's nothing, I guess there's no repercussions for it if I'm not doing what I don't feel like doing.
And I like too what you said. You could stop tomorrow. You could just
Hmm.
stop doing it altogether, and it wouldn't impact anything.
They probably would call though and be wondering where I am, but no, I'm just kidding.
But I'm sure, like you said, in the winters when you post more, I'm sure in the summer, vacations and things like that,
Yeah,
you just post less, right?
yeah,
I'm not up for it
yeah,
today.
exactly.
So you're not motivated by something that you have to do. You're motivated by something that you enjoy doing.
Yeah, I like doing it.
That's cool. So what about? I'm also curious. In terms of, I asked you percentage of helping others versus learning new things. But what do you find? We don't have to go with the percentage here, but like, how helpful do you think the community is in helping you to learn new features, like stuff that you didn't even know was out there because Acumatica is already always releasing new features.
I've learned a lot from it actually. Just reading through things, and again, the kind of the posts that I stay away from are like dev and customization posts because I don't want to be a developer. I'll never develop. I'll never do stuff like that. But I think for me, the uh, just again seeing that there are features in there, because like I'm big on posting screenshots because I want people to see where I'm getting my information from. So when other
Yeah.
people post screenshots, I can see where they're getting it from, and I'm like, oh, I did know about that, but I forgot, or or it's something I've not used, but I may need to use it, so it's in the back of my head that it's there. And um, so a good part of it is learning from other people and learning, how things, the features that are there and the features that are available.
And being brought up in situations that you might not have expected them, right? That's the
Hmm.
creative part of it, right? Like a
Yeah.
feature that is there and you knew about it on its own, but then using it in a particular situation might be new to you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. There was something else I wanted to ask you, but I just lost it. Oh well, maybe it'll come back. So that's cool. That's really neat to hear about your experience, especially as someone who has as many posts as you do. Just kind of some of the softer side about how you do it, right?
Hmm.
I think that's really interesting. You do it in the morning, primarily. It's on your own time. It helps you warm up for the day, and sounds like so far you still like it. So you keep doing it, right?
I do. Yeah, I still like it. I seem to I think I think with summer, I took a little more time off than I wanted to. Not time off, but I wasn't posting as much. But now that summer's over and kids are back to school and things like that, that seems to be gives me when my house is quiet, it gives me more time to focus mentally, and so it'll be ramping up again.
And when you do that, like when you're coming back from a break and you look at that folder and it's just got like so many notifications in there, I'm curious, is it too overwhelming and maybe you just sort of clear out everything except for the past couple of weeks to make it more manageable? Or do you still try to go through everything?
No, I usually try to go through. I try to stay on top of it, but I try to go through it weekly and clear it out so it's out. Like Fridays is usually my day I clear it out just to get those emails out of that folder. And there's I don't have that number next to it saying, "Oh, you have 35 notifications or whatever in that folder." So I usually try to clear it out weekly. So when I'm starting a new week, like I said, on Monday coming back, then it's clear and all those are new posts then for the community, new posts or new comments, like I said.
Okay. Yeah, you really stay on top of it then.
You have to be
That's cool.
organized.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I remember what I was going to bring up. So you talked about screenshots, and I feel similarly. I think in that a picture is worth 1,000 words,
Oh,
and
100%,
and
100%.
even if like you could describe it in words, like it's
You wouldn't
more easily digestible, and your brain remembers it better when there's a screenshot along with it, right?
That's always my thought too, because if there's a screenshot, you're going to remember what you saw versus me trying to tell you where to go, because I could tell you all day where to go with something, but if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, you're going to get lost. So I think the screenshots is always the important part of it.
And what tool do you use for screenshots?
I use Snagit.
Snag it. Okay, I've heard of that
Yeah,
one.
it it's very good. You can take a screenshot and then you can type on it and put you can crop it obviously and things like that, and circle and highlight and do anything you need to do with a screenshot. And I just find it the most user friendly for myself, so I like Snagit.
Yeah, and even if there's a cost, which I don't know if there is for Snagit, it's worth
I think
dropping a
it
few bucks on there, right, for the
Yeah, I
amount
think
that you do.
I think it was like $40 for the year maybe or something, but for as much as I use it, and not only because do I use it for the community, I use it for my daily job too. So
Mm-hmm.
for me it's worth it. I just always buy the subscription and just carry it over with me and just continue using it. You can
I
record
use
with it as well.
Yeah, like you can do little video recordings, right?
Yes, yes.
I use one called WinSnap. It only does screenshots, but I have
Okay.
similar thinking on it. It's like, yeah, it costs a little bit of money, but the
Mhm.
amount that I use it and it makes it just a little bit easier, it's totally worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's funny because when I was in the military and I had to do screenshots, I had to do like control print and do like the screenshots that way. Um, did you ever do that like back in the day? That was like
Like the
the screen.
Windows screenshot tool, or
Yeah, it was like
okay.
control print, and that was like because I used to have to do training manuals for my job, so I always had to use like the control print function, and that took forever, and you couldn't edit them and make notes. You had to use the Word documents. But yeah, I definitely like Snagit. I wish it would have been 20 years ago.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm so thankful for the tools we have now. Makes it a
Oh, me
lot easier.
too.
Well, that's great. I really appreciate you coming on and talking
Sure
about
thing.
your participation in it. And I'm trying to think. I don't come into these with pre-prepared questions. I feel like um, I didn't have anything else I can think of at the moment. But do you have anything else you'd like to share, like your current work with SWK, projects you're working on, features you find interesting, anything like that?
Um, well, I can't talk about projects because it's top secret, and I no, just kidding. No, we just keep SWK keeps growing, and I think it's amazing. And I'm working on some things right now with trying to mentor some junior consultants with becoming, transitioning into becoming an Acumatica consultant. Um, and that's really about it. I want to mentor more. I think that I have a lot of value there, and I can teach on how to really consult, and especially within Acumatica, because somebody can learn Acumatica all day, but if you can't consult, then you can't consult. So,
Oh,
um,
totally agree. Yeah, you could understand the application, but that's very different than being
mm,
able to apply it in real world situations. Yeah.
correct. Yeah. So
On the, sorry, go ahead.
that's kind of where I'm at. I want to mentor and train and things like that to make sure we have some of the so that not just for SWK but Acumatica is getting some of the best consultants.
So when you're as part of those mentoring conversations, is the community a part of those conversations?
A
Like, hey, I
thousand percent.
recommend.
1,000%. I always plug the community in, and only because I want people to understand that that tool is there. And like I said in the beginning of this, it wasn't there when I started. I wish it would have been. It would have helped me tremendously, far more than anything else that I ever had. But now it's there, so it's free. You don't have to pay for it, so why not use it?
And I cannot remember if this is a feature. I should know this, but if you mention someone with the at symbol and their username, do you know if they
hmm
get an email
They
notification when you do that?
Yes, they do. It says like you get an email. It says like so and so messaged you or someone messaged you in a comment or something. But you get a notification, and
So
that's
have
what
you
comes in
gotten
my
to,
box too. Like I get a lot of those too that people mention me in comments. So I get a lot of those.
well, I'm curious if you've gotten to the point where I'm thinking theoretically here, since you talked about mentoring, where you have conversations with other SWK people, but on the community forums, and maybe you allow the mentioning posts to land in your inbox, or if you were mentioned by certain people, if you, is that what do you think? Is that a good idea? Bad idea? Thinking on the fly here. So you'd be
No,
having a conversation about something, but in the broader context of the community, so that someone else might chime in if they want.
no, I think it's good to always have that. ability to mention others and talk with others, because then, um, you know, again, you never know. Consulting is all about collaborating, and the more you can collaborate with people and the more people you can collaborate with, the better it becomes for the group as a whole.
Yeah, like that second pair of eyes, like you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. Well, cool. Sounds like you're in a good place and
Oh, my
you're
favorite feature, I
continuing.
forgot to tell you, my favorite feature in
Oh yeah,
Acumatica
yeah.
is side panels. Side panels are my
Oh,
new favorite feature. I'm so
me
glad
too.
they opened it up.
Actually, maybe you guys have done something like this. I've the last couple of weeks, I encountered a situation where I'm like, it'd be really cool if we had a screen where we could pick an entity and only see the attributes for that entity. So it could be added for a
Oh.
side panel.
Yeah.
What do you think about that idea for private
Yeah.
features?
Yeah. I
I don't
like
know if we
that.
get someone to develop it. I don't know how easy it would be to dynamically display, if you pick a customer, pick the attributes, and then on the same screen, pick a vendor or
Yeah.
something item. I don't know if that would work. And then you'd want it to work with user defined fields also. But I've had a similar experience with side panels. It's like they're great, but dropping a data entry screen is too noisy, and I want to like
Mhm.
slim it down. And attributes I have control over, but I've been thinking about that recently.
Yeah. The other thing I think Acumatica should do, and I'm gonna go to the CEO. No, just kidding. I'm not. Um, the lot serial attributes. That's probably one of my new favorite things too that I found within like the last year, because I just implemented a client that used that and they loved it. The It's a package that is on GitHub or whatever, and but it's attributes on lot and serial classes, and that is so useful. I think Acumatica should just put that inside the program, because I know so many people are using that now and there's such a need for it.
It's funny. I feel like I saw that on the distribution roadmap like years ago. Like I
Really?
thought it was, yeah, it was supposed to be happening, and maybe it just hasn't happened yet. I feel like
Yeah,
it's one of
maybe
those
it
back
hasn't
burner
happened.
things.
Mhm.
Probably
Yeah.
the since it's on GitHub, it's like we
I
have other
know, they're
things that are
like,
more important.
yeah.
I totally agree with you though. That's a very useful one. Yeah, there's so many attribute situations, right? That
Mhm.
could be enhanced probably further. But I do like that they have the side panels, and I really like what they've done with the business events, also
Oh
letting
yeah,
you trigger by
the
action. I
yeah.
really like that.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember. There's. Oh, I just looked at it last week. There's something that was business event or side panel related. I thought in 2023 R2, but I can't remember right now. Does
I
that
don't
ring any
know.
bells with
The
you?
one No, the one feature I'm waiting for is being able, along the lines of attributes, is being able to put the user defined fields on the main screen. Did you see it at Summit? The
Oh yeah, with the new UI. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I'm waiting for that. Like I keep looking for it and I'm like, I thought it was supposed to come in 23R1, but I haven't seen it. So I'm waiting for the 23R2 release, which is in September, and I'm hoping it's in that one, because I think that's going to be so useful to a lot of people too. Is that being able to put their own user defined fields and, kind of moving things around without coding. Obviously, I mean,
Yeah.
there's always going to be a need for coding, but then I feel there's a lot of things that can be more user friendly to do in the system without coding, like moving fields and things like that. So I think that that's the route that they're trying to go with Acumatica, just because they want it to be a lot more user friendly.
Yeah, because that's the big problem, isn't it, with user defined
Mhm.
fields and attributes right now? They're buried on these
They're
other
buried.
tabs. They're not
Yeah.
front and center. And
Yeah, and
some things you want to be front and center.
well, and not only that, but you can make them required, but if you make them required, what if it doesn't pertain to a sales order that you want it on? You just want it for that sales order instead of making it required for all of them. If it's on the header, you know, the front header page, then you don't have to worry about making it required. So I think there's two parts to that.
That makes sense. And actually, it is in 23R1. If I can find it, I think I did a post
Really?
on it. You have to
I,
turn it on in your web config file to see it on the sales order screen,
oh, that's
but it
why
is
then.
there. And I haven't tried the attributes and user defined fields specifically. So now you just gave me something to do in my hobby
All
time. Thank
right.
you. That's awesome. But yeah, what other features could we geek out on? I'm with you on side panels. I'm a big
Um,
business events fan now. What other things?
I think generic inquiries is my other one. Just being able to pull data, and I when I first got into Acumatica, I always had a fear of like generic inquiries and import scenarios, just because again, I don't code or anything. I don't do development and stuff, but I like figuring things out. And I think that goes to a lot of what the community is too. I like to figure things out. I like to find answers and find how things work. So GIs have become one of my new favorites too. Is just like learning the tables and what's mapped to what and how things are related so that you can create those GIs and um f- things like that. So I that's probably one of my other favorites is GIs.
It's like tinkering, right? You're
Yeah,
tinkering with something. Yeah.
yeah. And dashboards, the dashboards is my other one, is just creating dashboards based off of GIs so that you can see everything all at once. Because the first, the when Acumatica came out with dashboards, if you remember, it was very dashboards were kind of clunky and they were hard to, they were harder to create, and it was almost like you had to have a physics degree to create them back in the day. But now it's so easy, for anybody to create a dashboard and to get the data that you want. So, and the only thing I wish is that they would do is make dashboards that where you can color code them a little better, because I think if you have a dashboard that has a bunch of tables on it, like generic inquiries, you can't color code them as much. So I think
I've never
that's
tried that. The conditional formatting doesn't work in the table. I haven't tried
no.
that. Oh,
No, it was
okay.
so what I did on one that I did was I put someone gave me an idea in the community, actually, was I took a bunch of KPIs and separated them, and I color coded those KPIs as like headers for the GIs, the tables that were in there, and it really made a difference. And it didn't it all runs together when it looks just like tables, but if you color code it, it separates it. So I think they should, maybe Acumatica should take something like that into consideration, where if you have a bunch of tables, being able to color code them, or at least doing the header where you can color code the header at least.
Yeah, and I like how the tools that we have, dashboards, generic inquiries, side panels, business events, and now it seems like there's just so much more opportunity for improvement in terms of the cross pollination between them, right? Adding the
Mhm.
color capability when you're
Yeah.
using GI
Oh
on a
yeah.
dashboard, or just the way they interact with each other. There's still a lot more to
1000%.
go.
Mhm. Yeah.
Ha- Have you done anything with the new workflow engine?
No.
That I was so I was kind of
Uh,
hoping you would say that because I haven't either. I like haven't gotten the guts to get into it because
I
it just
know.
feels like a developer tool to me.
That's
Whereas I like I'll just use a business event and fire off an import
yes.
scenario instead. That's sort of my workflow that I've been
Me
doing
too.
lately.
I think that that's what stops me, is I feel like it's a developer thing, so I feel like that's not my territory and not my wheelhouse, so I stay away from it mainly. But I should probably learn it and look into it, but I feel it's so developer centric that I'm like, nah, I'll leave that for people that know what they're doing. I'll mess up code or something and I won't be able to get it back. So I'm good.
I keep telling myself the same thing. I should learn it, but I'm just not real motivated to do it. One thing that stops me is that you have to publish the customization project, which you can't do during the day. So now I need a
Yeah.
dev environment. I can't just hop into a random environment and do something right away. I have to
Yeah.
spin up a dev environment on that version and test it. And it's just like,
Well, that's why I
I'm
always
not
and
motivated.
I teach a lot of like new consultants this, and I tell them all that one of the things that eh, the biggest thing for me was getting a local environment of Acumatica on my every computer, is because simply that's where you can test everything. You don't have to be in a customer's environment. You don't have to be messing with someone else's things and possibly, create things or throw things off. If you have your own local instance of Acumatica, which it's free, you don't have to, that's out there with the tools and everything. Put one of those and do all of your stuff in there, and that's what I mean, I know personally that's what I do. I have a local environment that I use and local instance, and that's where I do all of my testing and things like that, and test new features. And
That's cool. Yeah, that's great advice. Yes, a lot of people don't know that's out there now, especially
mhm.
with the volume of people that have been, new people that have been joining the Acumatica community.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Well, Kandy, thanks for taking the time today. I
Sure
know we're coming
thing.
up to the top of the hour. Any other last parting thoughts or advice?
Um no. No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks again for taking the time, and I'll let you get back to your normal work.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate the chance.
All right. Well, that's it for now. We'll catch you on the next episode of ogforums.com Real Talk. Thanks for listening, and take care.